told to do when you're sick. I personally am told to get some sleep. Now, this isn't some myth like when you crack your knuckles, you're gonna get arthritis. This is a logical conclusion because when you sleep, your body actually goes through cleansing, and this cleansing helps your immune system. This is very relevant to our society because in American culture specifically, we're told to work long days, and our minimum hours of sleep is only 6 hours for adults, and that's really just not enough. Because when you don't sleep, your body can't cleanse. I personally relate to this because my biological grandfather tragically died in a car accident due partially to sleep deprivation. So it's important to me to educate everyone on the effects of sleep deprivation on your mental and physical health. First, I'm going to speak on your mental health. There are two important things for me, depression and anxiety. For depression, we see that neuroplasticity is impaired, and so when neuroplasticity is impaired, we see that there's a hyperfunctioning of domain circuits, which leads to poor self-regulation and poor emotional liability. This directly relates to your amygdala, and your amygdala is what controls your emotions. So we see through the amygdala an increase in a high risk of depression. We also see in many case studies that once you develop sleep deprivation when you're younger, you are much more likely to have sleep deprivation and high depression when you're older. Similarly to depression, we see anxiety being related through the hyperfunctioning of domain circuits, also relating to your amygdala. It's not exactly sure what goes different, but your anxiety levels are increased. Probably your anxiety and your depression levels are increased when you go through sleep deprivation, based on research. Next, I would like to speak to you on degenerative diseases. So one degenerative disease that you're likely to develop through sleep deprivation is Alzheimer's disease. This is when your nerves develop plaques, and those plaques just tear away at your nerves and kills your brain and kills your body. So we see a correlation because your circadian rhythms, when they're impaired, leads to the impairment of getting rid of neurotoxin proteins, and these neurotoxin proteins are related to Alzheimer's disease, as we see through research. Another thing that we see is poor working memory. So your hippocampus stores your daily memory, and then when you sleep, it turns it into long-term. So when you don't sleep, you're not able to turn your memory into long-term. Also, we see that there are specific receptors that relate to your working memory. And so when these receptors don't function properly due to a lack of sleep, we see poor attention, which also leads to poor working memory. Lastly, I would like to speak on your physical health effects. So there are many diseases that can come with it, but two specific ones that I would like to talk about are cardiometabolic diseases and neuroplastic diseases. So cardiometabolic diseases are diseases that affect your cardiovascular system. We see a correlation because there's a decrease. So when you're sleeping, we see a decrease in your sympathetic activity, your plasma level, and your blood pressure. So when you don't get sleep, we see the opposite. An increase in sympathetic activity, an increase in plasma levels, and an increase in blood pressure, which all affect your heart. We also see that your immune inflammatory activation can occur, and when that is activated, we see poor cardiovascular system functioning. Next, I'd like to speak on neoplastic diseases, which are basically just tumors growing or excessive tissue. So basically, when you sleep, you go through a cleansing, and that cleansing, if it does not occur, your cells are likely to be more unhealthy. And so unhealthy cells are likely to lead to mutations in your cells, and mutations in your cells can lead to an increase of dividing, which is what a tumor is. Or we see when you sleep, you also produce white blood cells, which fight against like viruses that you could have. And so if you don't have enough white blood cells, you're likely to be more sick, and that's likely to lead to other diseases as well as neoplastic diseases. So I hope you're able to realize that there is a lot of negative effects to sleep deprivation, and just remember that it's important the choices you make. Do not forget to sleep. Just remember that sleep is important. Thank you.